Hey guys, how's it going? Kevin Cleary here with a knife video for you. And I've got my tool belt here and a couple other tools because the knife we're looking at is right here and it has been riding in this spot in my tool belt for a few weeks now. And honestly, I'm enjoying it quite a bit. I hope there's not too much background noise. I'm going to try to do my best. Let me get this knife off of here. Let you take a closer look. This is the Mora chisel knife. All right, hold on for a second while I clean this stuff up, clean this blade up a little bit, and then we'll come back and talk about it for a minute. Okay, so here is the knife we're talking about, and I have got to say, I have been really happy with this. In fact, much happier than I initially thought I would be. I've beat on this quite a bit. I thought for sure, I have sharpened it, but I thought for sure it would roll and be as dull as imaginable after, the first couple of windows I pulled out because they were really miserable. The wood was old and hard, and I, had to do a lot of chiseling to get them apart. And it just worked out really well. So I went on to use this for basically a week without having to do anything with it. Then I did sharpen it, and I haven't used it as heavily since I sharpened it. So it's holding up quite well. Let me give you a quick rundown on specs here, just size, weight, and that kind of stuff. So 7.5 inches overall. That's obviously out of the sheath, as you see it here. 4.5 inches on the handle length. Okay. 3 3/4 grip area, so a little smaller grip. If you're familiar with the Mora Companion, it's not that different from the Mora Companion. If you put this in the sheath, which I'll do right now, there you go. If you carry it this way, it's going to be about sorry, I couldn't read my own writing there. 8 3/4 inches. I've just carried this clipped kind of inside, clipped to my belt, but then riding inside one of the pockets on my tool belt the way you saw it. And in that configuration, it's worked pretty well. It's light enough that you're not going to notice it, especially, this is the kind of stuff you're carrying around. So, you know what I mean? You're not going to, this is heavy, your hammer's heavy. You're not going to notice a few ounces at all. All right. I don't know if I gave you all the numbers. Oh, I should have mentioned the cutting edge here. So the cutting edge on this guy is 2 3/4 inches. Now, what I've enjoyed about this is, in addition to, and I have done some, actual chiseling where, I'm pounding this through, or I'm cutting this direction to level something off. And of course, then you're kind of cross cutting. So I'd be here. But what's great about this is if you're working, with typical construction materials, you can, what's messing me up? Oh, these staples. Hold on. There we go. If you're working with typical construction materials, you can do this move right here. So I would take this. I can't do it because I'm working with one hand here to keep the tripod where it needs to be. But I would take this, I would pound it with my hammer, come over here, pound a little bit more, and then just kind of remove some material. Let me pause and just do that really quickly so you can see. I'll just do the partial job so that you can see me kind of finish it off and how this works really well in particular situations. Okay, so I've taken my hammer, I've pounded this in a couple of places, and I'm going to try my best to do this with one hand. It's not ideal, but now I can either come in this way and just pry the wood out of there and work along the way I would with a typical chisel. You can see very quickly, especially if I was able to work with two hands, I could have this cleared out. So really handy for, let's say, finishing off a saw cut you just made. Really handy. I installed some doors the other day, and I had to just readjust the size of the routed hole where the door closer fits in, and I was able to again clean it out with this. And the handy thing about this, because it's got a knife handle on it, one, you can do a lot of your knife type of tasks very nicely. And so for maybe you've done this before on a construction site, you make a cut with your skill saw and then just want to clean it up like that to finish an edge. It does all that, but it can also serve double duty as a chisel. So I've actually really liked this, and I found it extremely useful on a construction site. And of course, the construction of it and the blade steel that is used allows me to not have to worry too much, even if I'm going to do some prying with this. And I've done quite a bit of prying, but scraping, you know, this kind of stuff. If I turn it this way, now, most of you will be familiar with chisels. Okay, so you'll know if you do this with a chisel, you're going to cut. But if you just want to scrape, you can come around here, get the angle right, and clean stuff right up. So really, really handy piece of equipment to have. Now, let me grab a couple of other, let's say, sort of comparable options and just see how this holds up. Let me get the hammer out of the way. So, of course, probably my most used tool on any job site is going to be an Olfa knife. Very, very handy. You know, again, this is how many times I've had people contact me and say, you know, Kevin, I work in construction. I want a good knife for my construction job, and I've recommended an Olfa knife to them because they're cheap. When you break them or dull them, you just throw the blade away and put in a new one. And this is not going to take the place of an Olfa knife. It's thicker. It's sort of a chiselish type tool, so it's not going to do all of the jobs that your Olfa knife can do, but it's really, really handy to have that extra heavy duty tool. Now, on the other hand, you know, what if we just threw something like this in our tool belt? And that actually could work. And I've carried this knife a lot in my tool belt. So this is my favorite EDC fixed blade. This is the Rake Knives P815 or F815. I'm not sure. I'm going to get that wrong. So bear with me on that one, guys. But whichever one it is, I have carried this a ton. Again, it's tough as nails. You can see some of the hammer marks. You know, we recently saw in the Knife Nerds research that 14C28N steel was a very tough steel. And I've got to say, my assessment is totally in agreement. Now, I have, hold on, see if I can get this to focus, just slightly broken that tip off, and I haven't had a chance to get around to fixing it yet, but I will fix this shortly. It actually needs to be sharpened as well, so I'll do both of those jobs actually at the same time. So, you know, there are other options we could add to our tool belt, including just a regular EDC fixed blade, but I find this combination has been my favorite that I've had for a while. All the heavier, tougher stuff I do with this, lighter, easier, you know, more precision stuff I do with this, and it just turns out to be a really, really nice match. So I've got to, you know, I can say if you do any kind of work, physical, you know, construction, if you're just a home handyman, whatever the case may be, all those kinds of jobs, this Mora chisel knife is an easy recommend. All right, guys, thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. I will put an Amazon link to this. I've already added it, I believe, to my Amazon store. I'll double check that I've done that and make sure that I put an Amazon link. I'll also put a link to the usual suspects, Southern Edge Knife Works and White Mountain Knives. Both of those guys do a good job and do help out the channel a lot. All right, thanks for watching. We'll talk to you soon.